Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. Thank you, Game Day Sportswear, for my new awesome water bottles. If you need things for your team, go to gamedaysports.net and they can help you out. But today we're talking about complacency. Don't get too comfortable. I got a text from my college roommate's husband, Ron, who's one of the most optimistic guys I know. And I always read what he sends me because I feel like I have a lot to learn from him. What a great guy. But what he sent me was a clip from a newspaper article about a local basketball coach who basically said, every morning we wake up, we're going to be at the top of the rankings. That's just how it is. It's just how it's been. That's how it's going to be. They went on to lose the next two games. And in Ron's mind, that's karma. Got to watch out because it always comes back to bite you. Complacency. Complacency. We deal with it all the time. We fall into it and sometimes we don't even realize. It sneaks up on us and boom, there goes our results. Or there goes our winning streak. In 1993, a guy named Gordon DuPont, an aviation expert who did all kinds of research, developed a concept called the Dirty Dozen, and I'm going to tell you what these things are. They're the 12 most common conditions or human error predictions that lead to mistakes, and here they are, in no particular order. Complacency, distraction, pressure, stress, norms, fatigue, a lack of teamwork, a lack of resources, a lack of knowledge, lack of communication, lack of awareness, and lack of assertiveness. And yes, this was written when we're talking about airplane and aviation maintenance, but it could be pulled straight out of a mental performance book. We deal with all of these things as we're trying to train our athletes, as we're trying to perform, as we are looking ahead, maybe resting on our laurels, but complacency can bite us in the butt. It is a consistency killer in all reality. We are riding along, going along, doing what we've done all along, and we forget to look at the detail or repeat the detail that got us there. Think about it. Almost all accidents happen within 25 miles of your home. Why? Because you're so used to going down that road, and we see what we expect to see, not what's actually there. How does complacency get us? We lose. We lose our edge. We can get hurt. This Dirty Dozen was developed to try to keep people safe when they're working on these big, huge airplane engines, and to keep the people safe that are going to be riding on that airplane engine at some point. But we have a tendency to rest on our laurels. We all do it. We also have to fight boredom or mundane. I used to tell our kids all the time, it's the teams that do the mundane drills that win. Because that little thing that you're practicing stacks up to a big thing. Complacency throws us off our game, and yet we can fall into it so easily. But lots of the tools that we deal with, that we talk about in these tips and the things that you probably use with your teams, can keep us away from falling into the complacency trap. Every session I begin with my team starts like this. Tell me 3 things that are going well. We start with our well, better, how. So we start with like, these things are going well. Great. Why? Okay, that's going well. Why is that going well? It's really important for us to identify why things are going well. The third part of that what's going well question has to do with what are you contributing to that? Here's the key. If your team members don't understand what they're contributing to what's going well, then they may stop doing what they're doing to make things go well. And if they stop doing what they're doing to make things go well, you cease to do things well. They become more accountable. They understand that what they're doing is important. They have a tendency to focus on it more. So what's going well? Why is it going well? What are you contributing to what is going well? And then in their mind, or the next question for them, What do you need to do to repeat that with intention? The next question, of course, is what do we need to do better? We have to make sure that we are thinking about the things that, need improvement. Otherwise, we can just talk about pie in the sky, and that can be complacency too. But we've got to think about what we need to do better. And then finally, how are we going to do that? What are the behaviors and actions that we can take that are going to make us better at what we need to do better? You've heard the little story about the 5 birds that were sitting on a roof line, and they all decided to get up and fly away. How many birds are left? 5. 5 birds are left because they just decided. They didn't act. They just decided. So we decide what we need to do better, but what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about getting better? That's the question. So what do you do well? What are we doing well? Why is it going well? What are we contributing to it? What do we need to do better? And then how? What behaviors and actions are we going to take? This simple review can help us fight off complacency because it keeps us focused on the detail that got us where we are. It is that when we lose sight of the detail that's getting us there, that we have a tendency to slip back. The other thing that we can do to fight complacency is to make something a game. How can we compete with somebody or compete with ourselves to go through these mundane drills that we get bored with every day? Athletes do the same things day after day after day. Think about training for the Olympics. Every 4 years, you're going to compete. What are you doing all the rest of the days? You're doing the same stuff. You're prepping. What are you doing in your office every day? You're going through the things that you have to do according to your job description. And they can get boring. And when we get bored, we get complacent. And then we overlook things. We miss the detail. So how can we make it competitive? What can we do to change our focus? How can we see things a little bit differently? How can we have some outcome? Or measure some outcome to say, oh, okay, today when I go to this station, I write down what my intention is. I am going to drive, I'm going to measure this. Or I'm going to compete with him. I'm going to compete with her. I'm going to beat my score from yesterday. Gamifying something helps us avoid complacency. How can we make it a challenge? Because when we make it a challenge, we change our intention, we change our focus. And that's huge. Because week 1 of practice is great. Everybody's fired up and ready to go. You get your new job. Yes, I'm learning. Week 2, okay, now we're a little bit tired and we're good. We still have it. We're still excited. Week 3, why? Because we get complacent or we get tired. The rest of the dirty dozen shows up. But these little tools can help us keep our focus on its edge. We always want to be working toward that edge because then that edge just keeps moving out and our circle of influence or whatever it is keeps getting bigger. Our circle of success, our circle of skill keeps getting bigger. Finally, the last way, or not necessarily the last way, but a third way to keep from being complacent is to monitor threat. Complacency isn't laziness. Complacency is smugness. Complacency is overconfidence in a lot of ways. It's thinking, oh, I've done this already. I'm going to continue on just the way that it is. If we are certain that there are things all around us that can trip us up, and things in our own head, of course, that can trip us up, and we are identifying those things, then we can put a plan in to deal with them when they show up. We're surveying, we're observing the landscape, OTL, observing the landscape. We are looking for threat. Looking for threat keeps us safe. Do we want to be focused fully on threat? No. But we have to be realistic in knowing that it's not always going to be smooth sailing. A storm is going to come, and when the storm comes, what is our plan? If we have a plan, then we can weather that storm a little easier, at least. But looking for threat helps us avoid complacency because it keeps us sharp, it keeps us focused, it keeps us challenged. And those things keep us on track. So, if we can evaluate, if we can challenge, and we can scan and plan, we've got a pretty good chance of staying out of that complacency and keeping ourselves away from that dirty dozen that Gordon DuPont came together with in 1993. But those things can affect us in our performance. Again, how we respond and how we approach everything makes all the difference in the world. So if we can implement at least one of these three things, we've got a much better chance of staying on the path. I'd love to talk to your team or your business about our mindset and how our mindset matters, how our approach matters, how our responses matter to our success. Reach out to me at juliej@ssbperformance.com. Let's get together and put a program together for you. Until next week, avoid complacency. It's all within your control. And have a great week. Manage the moments.